All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm hopefully doing this for FluffTube. I'm with Larry Ballard, and wow, every time I go eat lunch, something happens. Last time we were bombing Iran, and now it's the ceasefire. So I'm trying to keep up with everything. And, folks, literally, I went to lunch, I come back, oh, there's peace now in the Middle East. 12-day war has ended. So Trump is saying that it's officially over. There's a ceasefire. Let's see who keeps their end of the deal, I guess. I don't know. Let's Larry Ballard, always great to have you. You put together an amazing PowerPoint presentation, and here we are. And I just broke this news to you, right? You didn't even know that they had a ceasefire, did you?
Nope. No, but that layers onto what I called you about. So my validation will validate you and you'll validate me. So let me tell you what I found. I follow somebody called Tusi. He's basically an Iranian who has, I don't know, connections in Iran, and he seems to get footage out of Iran and that doesn't appear on the mainstream channels. So the mainstream has not broke this yet, but he sent out stuff. I guess got it about an hour and a half ago, showing film footage from Iran, which would lead to this ceasefire, where they blew up, where Iranian forces went into Iran.
No,
They
no, no,
blew
no,
up.
no, no, not Iranian,
I'm,
Israeli.
I mean, Israeli forces. Yes, I'm sorry. Went into Iran and they blew up the doors on the Evans prison. That's where all of the political prisoners are kept. They're being freed. And then they went to the IRCG headquarters and blew that up. So that's what's leading to this ceasefire that you're talking about. And then along with that, I've been tracking another story. The crown prince who is in exile, who is the son of the Shah of Iran, who was basically I think it was 79. It was during the Carter period where he was basically ousted. He has been in exile, and the announcement was that he's coming back to set up a provisional government. All this
Wow.
ties in to what you said. So now with that, let's look at the slides that I put together. It's not going to contain new information, but it's going to lead us to understanding of the RV that's coming up, and
The
also
reset.
understanding, yes, the reset. It's also lead us to an understanding of our culpability and everything that's happened, because as we go forward, America is going to have to own its culpability and all of the turmoil that's happened in the world. So let's get into this with the first slide, and I'll go as fast as I can
Well,
because I
before
know
we
you
do
got a
that,
time schedule.
you know what we should all get into?
What?
Mining.
Okay.
Giant Mining Corporation, giantminingcorp.com. The United States is staring down a copper crunch. Global inventories hover a 15-year low. Washington is floating import tariffs, and every EV data center and power grid build needs metal we don't control. Investors who wait for secure supply headlines will be paying record premiums again. Picture project delays, soaring construction costs, and CEOs scrambling for offshore concentrate while retail investors chase the last uptick. Miss the window and you're funding someone else's margin because the majors will snap up the few U.S. assets with grade, scale, and infrastructure once the tariff hammer drops. Giant Mining Corp's 9,800-acre Majuba Hill project in Nevada. I don't know why they name these things these Majuba, Nevada. I've never heard of that, but Majuba, Nevada is built for this supercycle highway, rail power, and fiber on the claims. A recent hit of 170 foot 0.4 at 0.4% CU with 10-foot spike at 4.4% and engineered at respect already fast tracking the modeling of this fast or first resource estimate. All right, folks, you know what to do. Go down below. I got involved in it. I don't know anything about it, but I got involved in it because I know it's a smart thing to do. And so that's why I'm reading their commercials. Gold mining, gold mining corp, folks.com. It's down there in the link below. Get on it. Get on it. All right. So I'm going to pull up the slides now. This is crazy. News is breaking. So I can't even go to lunch. I can't even go to lunch. I can't even take my parents for a peaceful lunch. I get blown up. I'm like on the phone. I'm like, every time I go to the gym or go to lunch, it's something, man. All right. So let me see here. All right. We're going to the slides. Here they
Yep.
are. Uh, here we are. Bang. There we are. All right.
Okay.
Got it?
Nino, I didn't understand a word of what you're saying, but I do understand what I'm about to talk about. Maybe this headline is just a little premature, but I told it breaking news: Iran is liberated. With the ceasefire announced and with the information that I just disclosed to you, I
Well,
think
hold on.
that's
You put this
pretty
together
much.
before the ceasefire even happened.
Yes,
It's
this is
crazy,
I
yeah.
already did this show earlier this morning on His Glory, and I just announced my own show today. I've got an absolutely incredible man helping me. So I just launched Liberty Crusade the day of the Larry Ballard show. So I've done this show twice.
That's on
And then we
OnlyFans, right?
find this out. We find out that this is all just happening. So here we go.
All right, here we
We're at the
go.
top of the news cycle. So basically, let's go to the second slide, and here's what is coming. And just like Nino gave you a tip on investing in gold and in mining, I'm going to give you a tip too. So who you see there is the Crown Prince, who's in exile, who's coming back to set up the provisional government. He's been in exile, and he is the son of the ousted Shah of Iran. So basically, that picture in the middle, that's basically my vision of Iran being set free, and that's
So what happened
important.
to Khomeini?
We don't
I
know.
mean,
There's
he's not going
rumors
to
that
agree to a
he's been
peace deal.
assassinated. Nobody's validated anything. So I'm not making any comments on something that hasn't been validated.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I would imagine that something happened to him if they're going into a peace deal right now. I bet you he was taken out, and they're
uh,
probably not saying anything because they don't want an uproar.
that's right.
They don't want some kind of. I would bet you anything that's what happened.
Well, that's is to be determined.
Right.
But along the lines of what you're saying, I want to go to this far picture over here. This is the show that I've got queued up. And you know, when you can do it with me anytime you want. It's I've basically been tracking this in order to have the Nasara trigger, in order to have the revaluation trigger. It was essential that Iran be taken out so that we could have peace in the Middle East, so that the NAR could be revalued, so that the Vietnam could be revalued, so that the other baskets of currency could be revalued, so we could lead into the RV. So this is the story that I've got queued up to do next, which is basically that the Vietnamese dong is in the process of being revalued, and that's the beginning of the reset. Let's go on down and get into the history, because I think people need to know our culpability in terms of everything that happened in Iran and everything that could happen going forward if we don't keep this kind of information in our minds. So 1953, there was a coup in Iran. The man of the year, the democratically elected prime minister, Saddami, I probably pronounced that wrong, was ousted, and the Shah of Iran, a U.S. puppet, was brought in. And what caused that to happen is that a British oil company had been given exclusive rights for oil rights in Iran, but they were only given the Iranian people about 17% of the profits. And so they were getting screwed, basically. So basically, the then prime minister nationalized the oil, and the British came to America and said, "You got to help us! You got to help us!" So Eisenhower authorized Project Ajax, and joined together, and they caused him to be toppled, and the Shah of Iran came in, and that led us to basically what I think everybody is aware of, and that is the hostage situation that took place under Carter, and that led to the movie Black Hawk Down. So that's the story of what America did that basically so infuriated Iran. Let's go to the next slide, and what we're going to do is talk about history, because these things that I'm talking about now cannot happen in the future going forward. Basically, I want to have this caveat as I get into this slide. Every nation in the world has been controlled by the global financial elite. None of us have sovereignty because we don't have our own currency. That's about to change as we go to a commodity-backed system. So when you think about America and what we did, it's not America. It's not the American people. It's the global elite. Same thing with China. Same thing with Russia. Same thing with Iran. So here's what happened in the Middle East that set us up for where we are today. Basically, Gaddafi was trying to do the unmentionable, just like several presidents in U.S. history had tried to put us on a gold standard and were killed. Gaddafi was trying to do that in the Middle East, to have a gold-backed currency. That's why they initiated the Arab Spring. And then we move on to Saddam Hussein, who was not a good guy. Gaddafi did amazing things for his people, by the way. They really loved him, but Hussein was a bad guy. But he did the unthinkable. He turned down the oil deal that was offered to Saudi Arabia, where they were going to put their oil revenues through the U.S. banking system. That's why they had to take him out. And then when we get to what initiated the Arab Spring, it was the collusion bought and paid for that wanted to destabilize the Middle East. Well, now we're getting to a point where it can all be stabilized because we've gone too far down the track. It can't be stopped. Let's go to the next slide, and you're going to see some things that you're probably not aware of. So we just talked about Gaddafi, and his sin was he wanted to have a gold-backed currency, just like Lincoln wanted to do, just like McKinley wanted to do, just like Kennedy wanted to do. But the timing wasn't right, so they took him out. But now there is a man rising in Africa, in a small country that most of you never heard of, Burkina Faso. You need to find out about this country and this man. He's the youngest president of any nation in the world right now. He's 36 years old, Ibrahim Traoré. He has done the unthinkable in Africa. He is basically getting rid of Western hegemony. He said to all of the countries, get out of my country. Take your contracts. I'm nationalizing everything, but you can come back when you come back on our terms, a full equity deal, and we don't give you any of our natural resources raw. We manufacture them, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk about that in another show. But basically, because of the momentum that was happening with BRICS, they tried to kill him 18 times, just like they tried to kill Trump. I think it's 4 times, because they're still trying to keep the world from going on to a commodity-backed system, God's system. But that's breaking in Africa. And here's 2 more late-breaking news stories. Just this week, all the nations of Africa got together and voted that they are in the process of implementing, I don't know what they're going to call it, I'll call it the United States of Africa, where they're going to allow dual citizenship, and you'll have a passport. You'll be able to claim citizenship of your country of origin, but the nation as well. And they're breaking down all the borders, so you'll be able to cross from one country to the other, just like you cross from one state to the other seamlessly. That's going to open up trade internally within Africa. So they are 1.4 billion people that are going to constitute a huge domestic marketplace. And here's what also just happened. Think of BRICS now, and here's what happened. They just declared that they are going on to a digital payment system across all of Africa, which means that they'll be able to do settlements in their own individual currencies. So basically, that's all setting the stage for the financial reset that we're looking at. Let's go to the next slide. I'm going to try to get this done quick, Nino, so you can have a rest in between shows. So if you go down to the next slide, I want you to see a little bit more history. All right, this is what we've been fighting with the clerics. Basically, they believe that we in the West have basically just become infidels who have allowed smut to go out and are basically just ruining the world. So they have imposed Sharia law, which is basically nothing but a legalized misogyny on women, where they have no rights, where they have to wear burqas, where they can't drive, where they basically, if they indulge in extramarital sex, they can. And it all comes down to why we had to take them out, because they were willing to use nuclear, if they got it, in order to bring in the 12th Amman, the Ahmadi, in order to basically be able to end all of the Western hegemony. And they were willing to do it. That's why we had to have this. Now, I want to take you back, and I am an older guy. I got a birthday coming up in a few days. I'm going to be 29 one more time. And let's see what America looked like when I was a youngster. Let's go back to the 1950s, and you're going to see what's happened to America. That's, for those of you who are too old or too young to see this, Father Knows Best was a story about family, the nucleus family. One person working, one breadwinner, the mother with the children. And then in the center, in the 1950s, we had this as what depicted us, God and country, people who believed in Christ, people who believed in family. And then you've got, we were the nation that God chose to disseminate Christianity across the world. So Stalin said, if we can take out of the American culture their family, their patriotism, and their religious values, America will fall from within. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll see what it looks like now in America. So This is today in America. That is Disney. Look at those disgusting images. Look at the one in the upper right and the upper left. And in the center, you have their celebration of gay rights. And then look down below. In the center, you see a a storybook being held up. Be who you want to be. They're teaching our children the LGBT movement. And look at that absolutely disgusting picture on the far left. That's what we have to stop. So back in my day, I'm going to make a suggestion to the
Golly,
people of the
that's
world.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
These
And I'm
are
going to make this,
cartoons.
yeah, absolutely. And look at what they're doing. And you're sending your kids to see that smut. All right. So here's what I'm going to suggest. We
Parents
have
aren't aware of
censorship.
this. They weren't aware of this before. It was secretly, subvertly put in there.
Yep. It's subliminal in many
It's
instances.
subliminal. Yeah, you don't even catch it.
Yep. So here's what I'm going to say. We had censorship. You turned on the TV, you didn't see nudity. You saw a woman if it was a bedroom scene in a robe. We can implement censorship again, and we can get a ban on the internet. And basically, that's really why the Iranian clerics hated us, because we were putting this kind of stuff out to basically destroy the family, destroy Christianity, destroy the Muslim beliefs, basically to degrade society. So we can stop that. We can stand up and say, let's put the censorship back in. Let's get control of the media. Let's basically ban. So I'm hoping somebody's going to stand up and do this. Let's go to the next slide, and I'm going to show you what the future is going to hold very soon. This is a map of the Middle East, and I want you to understand why this happened, why Iran has basically been, I call it, liberated. This is just like what happened in, what was it, 79, I think, when the Berlin Wall came down. And basically, there were people out there with sledgehammers knocking down the wall between East and West Germany. If this story pans out and we get the rest of it, we're going to see that Iran is free, that we, in fact, have liberated the people, and now we get to look at what the other people around them want to do. Basically, in the lower left, you see a picture with a bridge, and that is a bridge that is currently being built that I think is going to be one of the most amazing architectural accomplishments the world's ever seen. It's a 30-mile long bridge connecting Africa to Saudi Arabia, and in some places the water is a half a mile deep. That is so they can have commerce between Africa and the Middle East. We are in a position where the other picture is a picture of Saudi Arabia and their oil. They don't want their oil fields bombed. Jordan doesn't want to be bombed. Libya doesn't want to be bombed. All of the nations around Iran view Iran, or have viewed Iran up until maybe this moment, as a pariah nation that would use their nuclear weapons, not just against the great state in America or the small state in Israel, but they would use it against all of the nations of the West, and even their own Muslim brothers, because they're fanatics. That's being brought to an end. We have an opportunity to have peace, to have coexistence, to end the hegemony that has been enforced up against the world by the global financial elite, not by the United States, not by any other nation, but by the people who control the nations. Let's go to the next slide, and I'm going through this as fast as I can. So let's go to the next slide, if you would. This is what this is all about. And this has been happening before your very eyes, or maybe without you seeing it, since 2020. For those who haven't watched me, I need to give you a little bit of a breakdown. I died in 68, and God showed me everything that was going to happen from then till now. He told me, I will hold you in the cliff of the rock and bring you out at the last moment. This is that moment. I just announced my own show today, and it's basically being posted on YouTube as we speak. It was done a few hours ago. But basically, what we have is that the global financial reset is now able to happen with what just happened in Iran. And it has two components to it. We have to deglobalize, and that is where all the manufacturing is being pulled from China. So China cannot control the world through trade, and the dollar is being deglobalized, so that the world can't be controlled exclusively by the dollar. Don't worry, we're going to come out of this okay. America our currencies will fall, but we'll stabilize. And basically, we will come out of this. What Trump's goal is to retain 61% of all global trade still done in the dollar. BRICS is a force. And what Africa just announced with having their own electronic payment system, there will be currencies other than the United States used. But we're, for many reasons, still going to be the predominant leader of the world. The world needs a nation that is not communist, a nation that is not radicalized, a nation that is committed to God. So that's what's unfolding. And next week, if you come and join me, you're going to find out that the RV is happening. And I'm going to tell you some details about it because this is the promise from God. I have a clip from Kim Clement, and here's what he says. He says that he placed a man in the White House that was chosen by him, and he's called it a lot of times. His David is in the White House, and he said that his David would initiate the following: that the White House would be called the lighthouse as America was restored, and then in turn restored the other nations of the world. That's our destiny. This is the time for the harvest of souls. God is going to bring in his kingdom, and we're going to have financial stability like you cannot even begin to imagine. There are no shortages. All the shortages have been orchestrated by the global financial elite. We're going to get amazing technology released that is going to give us virtually free energy. And I'll give you on another show an indication of how that just removes almost all of your taxes. And America and the people of the world are going to have freedom and peace and prosperity. Unbelievable. So now I'm going to go down two more quick announcements that relate to things that have happened. I've had this GoFundMe up periodically on and off. I'm $1,000 short of getting the funding for my new book, which has to get out. The time is right now because Trump has already gotten out of the federal education department, making a way for this book to go into our school system. So please, if you're in a position to give a couple of dollars, do so. But I want to make another announcement. I now have my own show, and the gentleman who's doing it is top drawer, but he says, I need to spend about $6,000 for the equipment that he wants me to have. I don't have it. So if anybody is in a position to click that QR code and to fund a few dollars, I'd appreciate it. We'll do the show with or without the fancy technology, but it'd be nice to have it be first rate. And then the very last thing, rather than commit, if you can't give some money to the GoFundMe, I want you to buy this book because here's where we're at. We're at the point where when America was founded, we have pamphleteers that nailed the truth on the doors and on every business around. And now we had in World War II pamphleteers that dropped pamphlets from the sky to tell the people the truth. We are at a point where now we have to rise up united like Africa did. And what you need to know to be able to vote in the midterm elections is the truth. This book tells you the truth of what you need to know to make an informed decision to vote. That's it. We're done.
Do you think my theory could be correct? We haven't heard anything from Khamenei. I think he could be assassinated. I think he might have been assassinated. Think about this. And then they're hiding that not to cause an uproar or chaos in the region, to stabilize it, bring the peace deal in, and then say later that something happened to him. I would bet that. And I know, folks, you're going to see this thumbnail and be like, what is this all about? But that's why I'm putting this thumbnail on there, is because I think that could be and it's just a theory. I think it could have happened. I think it makes sense with what you said, is really forces being in there. And then we haven't heard anything from him. I mean, could it be? Could it be, folks? You leave a comment down below. What do you think, Larry?
Well, there's rumors to that effect, but I agree with you. The last thing they would want us to know, until this is absolutely solidified, is that we took him out, because he's called the supreme leader of what? Islam. How many people does he lead? 1.2 billion people. No telling what in the world they would do if they found out he'd been taken out.
They would have to get him first.
And stability, they have to keep that silent.
Right. They would have to get him first and then keep it silent and figure out a way how to play this out and give it to the public. I'm going on that. And I'm going to put that as the thumbnail.
And then when the Iranian people, yes. And when the Iranian people, when we see this officially announced and we see millions of them in the streets celebrating, it'll soften that, because we will understand that 80% of the population in Iran wanted the clerics taken out, wanted to be out from under that religious tyranny that they were under. And so it'll mitigate the whole story and it'll all calm down. You're absolutely right, Nino.
Thank you, Larry, for joining me. My phone's going off talking to me. That's weird. Um, it's weird.
I
All
know
right.
you've been busy. Thanks for letting me come on and
Yeah,
bring
I,
this
I I
news.
felt bad, Larry. I was like, man, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot here to talk about, and I got to give Larry his what did we do? 40 minutes, about 40 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, but I got it up. I'm going to get it up tonight, okay? I got the thumbnail. I just created the thumbnail on my own, folks. Are you proud of me? Yes. All right, Larry. Peace.
Thank you.